Electioneering in houses of worship. We're going to talk about that today with Connie Ryan Terrell of the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. We're also going to discuss the judicial retention vote. I got a bunch of other things in my craw that I've got to get out. And later in the show, the angelic voices of Rosalind Stone are going to treat us to a number in advance of their concert this coming Friday.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage. Open Sesame is Des Moines' premier Lebanese cafe. This month, Open Sesame is offering an unbeatable lunch special on Monday and Tuesdays. Mention the Fallon Forum when you order anything on Open Sesame's delicious lunch menu and get the second item for half price. That's right, buy one, get one for half price. Open Sesame's pita wraps, salads, soup, and mouth-watering Mideastern specialties will have you and your dining partner coming back again and again. Open Sesame at 313 East Locust Street in Des Moines' historic East Village.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
So much news, so little time. Folks, welcome to the Fallon Forum today. Sponsored by the Sierra Club of Iowa and also Physicians for Social Responsibility. That's Brother Trucker's tune kicking us off. And I'm delighted to tell you that Andy Fleming with Brother Trucker will be one of the folks playing at my Legal Defense Fund shindig next Thursday, a week from today, 5 to 7 p.m. at the historic fire station on 8th Street, just on the north side of the interstate. It'll be a fun time. We've got John Price is playing. Who else? Joe Kinzer. Maybe some other folks joining in for music. Sid Cohn with catering. Sid's Catering. I'm saying it right? Catering by Sid, I believe, is going to be providing some food for us. And a whole bunch of folks are offering things to auction up because, unfortunately, because Leonard Boswell decided to sue me in a manner that feels very intimidating and very much like an attempt to suppress an individual citizen's freedom of speech. He decided to sue me because I claimed that he had offered me an $80,000 a year job not to run against him in 2008. Some people criticized me for bringing that up, at election time. Well, I've been mentioning that to folks for the last 4 years, and I just happened to mention it, I guess, at a very inopportune time for Mr. Boswell, so he decided to sue me. Not something I welcomed or even expected. But as a result, I have to hire an attorney, and I've got the best in the land, Joseph Glazebrook with Glazebrook & Moe, and he's given me a good rate. But it's still going to cost me a lot of money, so this fundraiser is to try to help raise the funds needed to defend this poor church mouse here from a very, very well-heeled congressman who, by the way, is being represented by the lawyer for the Iowa Democratic Party. So how's that grab you? Andy Fleming is playing at that event. That's going to be this coming Thursday, a week from today. 5 to 9 p.m. Please come It's at the historic fire station on 8th and Day. And there'll be more updates about that on Facebook. There's actually a Facebook page that somebody, Heather Ryan, has been kind enough to create. So if you'd like to go and sign up, always good to get a sense of how many folks are going to be able to make it. So, this segment of our program is sponsored by Gateway Market and Gateway Marketing Cafe. And Connie Ryan Terrell will be joining me later in the program. She's with the Iowa Interfaith Alliance, and we're going to talk about the judicial retention vote and also electioneering in houses of worship. This is relevant to I call it a scandal, pastor out in eastern Iowa, rather, who severely chastised, threatening to slap a woman in his parish for speaking out against actions that he was taking that seemed to be clearly in violation of federal regulations on what churches are allowed to do from the pulpit. We'll talk more about that with Connie. Also, later in the program, Rosalind Stone, the singers of Rosalind Stone, joining us, and I'm delighted to be and honored to be playing in the concert that they're putting on this coming Friday at Unity Church. So we'll hear from them as well, and literally we will hear from them. So it's always nice to get a little bit of a musical taste of the local talent here on this program. We had Joe Kinzer on yesterday, so we'll hear from Rosalind Stone later in the show, but plenty to talk about between now and then. And first half hour, it's all us, folks. So if you want to call in, I strongly, we can talk about whatever's burning in your craw as well. 244-0077. But there's plenty on my mind, including the cost of higher education, which is I guess the news is good, if you can call this good. College education's cost rising at a slower rate. Still rising, but it's at a slower rate. And you look at, across the country that's the case, but certainly here in Iowa as well. This is a report done by, let's see, who was the group? The College Board Advocacy and Policy Center. I am not familiar with them. But the chief economist with that organization, Sandy Baum, says, we would expect that the economy is changing. Family circumstances are changing. Something would be changing in higher education as well. The problem is that the cost of higher education is rising more quickly than most, not all, but other sectors of a family's budget, even as the amount of income to pay for those expenses is declining as a factor against inflation. Again, I would argue that things are better than they were. Clearly, I think they're better than they were. But we got a ways to go, and some of these are systemic changes that are going to require a lot more than 4 more years of the Obama administration. They're going to require a sea change in how we direct policy, but. And it's not just about. I'm of the mind that we could be doing more to help students who want to advance their education. I will point out, as the study points out, that about 2/3 of students receive some form of grant aid, according to the study, and they estimate that to be about $5,750 a year. That's a lot. And using that estimate, the average net price this year for public universities across the country, not just in Iowa, $2,910. That's up $290 from last year. $290 from last year. If you look at the cost of education over the last 30 years, it's up about 700%. How many people out there have an income that has gone up 700% in the past 30 years? Not me. Anyway, private universities, of course, the price tag is even higher, much higher. That's $13,380 a year, lower than the net price in 2008, 2009. And community college students receive enough aid to cover average tuition and put about $1,220 toward expenses. So community college is still the most affordable bargain. It depends on what you need and why you're going on for higher education. So the bottom line is, I guess you could call it good news that things aren't as bad as they have been in terms of the rising cost of higher education. But come on, it's still, to me, I look at this and I think, let's begin to create alternatives. Anytime something becomes unaffordable, people find a way around it. I know there are people finding ways around the unaffordability of healthcare. I'm one of them. Okay, sometimes it involves lifestyle changes. In that case, sometimes it involves. I know there's a church group where its members pool their money into their own private insurance plan. Maybe we need to be looking at some of those sort of things in education. And I guess you could say we already are, but maybe more effort put into establishing apprenticeship programs. And I know that some of these private colleges are trying to fill those gaps. I know they've come under criticism, but maybe we need to be looking at more of those options as well. Maybe universities and colleges need to think a little bit harder about how much building and expansion they want to do. And clearly it's critically important. We have to have a very strong options in higher education, but at some point you got to say, okay, what do we do to keep the costs down so that people don't come out of college with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in debt? All right, so that's on my mind, and I'm beyond the phase where I have to shell out big bucks for my kids' higher education. Been there, done that, to the tune of almost $50,000. Just me. So I'm glad I'm done with that, but I pity those folks who are still trying to deal with that in a tough economy. All right, Bill Northey. Bill, what's up? He's our Secretary of Agriculture. And I had a real hard time understanding why this letter was even written. This is a letter to the editor in the Des Moines Register titled, "Obama Doesn't Understand Farmers." Northey writes, "With all due respect to Vilsack, the Secretary of Ag, not the candidate for Congress, his livelihood has never depended directly on agriculture." Okay, whatever. I'm not. That doesn't discredit you from having an opinion. And I have my issues with Tom Vilsack as well, but I think he's very intelligent and doesn't have to have spent his life behind a combine in order to understand agriculture. There's a lot more to agriculture, too, Bill, than sitting behind a combine. Okay, Tom Vilsack has never had to worry about being buried under the new regulations that create challenges for our family farms. Okay, Northey goes on not to specify a single one except for the one dealing with the regulation that has been in place for nearly 8 months, making it illegal for a child to work on the farm owned by a grandparent or uncle or aunt. Okay, now that was a Labor Department proposal. And it's ironic that the president consistently blames others for the sad state of the economy, writes Northey, but takes credit for the resilience of our state's agricultural industry. I mean, again, I don't even know where that's coming from, because basically, Vilsack, I assume he worked with the president, because that proposal was withdrawn. I mean, I thought it was a bad idea, too. I thought it was silly to come in and say, this kid can't work on his granddaddy's farm. I think that's silly. And so we agree, Northey and I agree on that. But what I don't understand is he's chastising Vilsack and, by extension, the president for doing exactly what he wanted to see done. So, you're really grasping at straws here to try to criticize your political opponents when they're actually doing what you want, where you're actually agreeing with them. I don't get it. I don't get it. So anyway, Bill, find another topic to write about, one that actually, maybe actually you can see some difference between you and Vilsack. Anyway, I don't know. All right, so all sorts of corporate malfeasance is probably too strong of a word, but let's start with Wells Fargo. You may remember a guy named Richard Eggers, who was fired from Wells Fargo. He was 49 years earlier. He had been arrested for putting a cardboard dime in a laundry machine. He'd worked at Wells Fargo for, almost like 30 years, was it? And, apparently this, and maybe y'all remember some of this stuff. I don't know how much detail I should get into, but this is a response by big banks to try to tighten up their ethical standards in terms of their employees. It was intended to hold accountable the bigwigs, the CEOs, the top executives, and yet the big financial companies are using it to purge a lot of rank and file workers who did silly things in their youth. Is there a single person tuning into this show today who did not do something silly in their youth? I mean, I certainly did. Maybe if I'd worked with Wells Fargo, some of that might have come back to bite me. But Employment attorneys estimate that now as many as 3,000 low-level bank employees have lost their jobs under this new rule. And again, the rule was expanded actually to include mortgage originators. So again, more people coming in, coming under the purview of that. And the rule prohibits employment of anyone convicted of, quote, dishonest behavior. Okay. Dishonest behavior. Well, can we just purge the entire upper echelon of every national bank in the country? I mean, wouldn't that be a good start? I mean, even if you don't have specifics on some, just presume by association that they're guilty. I mean, that's really what this was supposed to be about, at least as stated, as presented. But instead, it's being used to fire guys like Richard Eggers, who've been good employees for a long time. The guy's salary was under 30 grand a year. He was cleared to return to work in the banking sector by the FDIC on September 26. The FDIC is the one that handles waivers. It's the fact that you even have to go through that process. Well, anyway, the guy, and I'd love to get him on the show. He's hard to track down, but I don't blame him. But he was offered his job back at Wells Fargo, and declined it. The attorney forum said the client sought to negotiate more humane terms for all Wells Fargo employees that were fired under the expanded countrywide. Oh, let's see. Yeah. I cut my paper badly. Now I can't read it. Anyway, so if I understand this correctly, he's saying, no, I don't want the job because I know there are plenty of other people who were affected and they need to be treated justly as well. So if that's not happening, then yeah, I strongly commend him for standing up for others, not just himself. But if you look at the data, I mean, again, people all over the board fired because of this rule. Again, it just we have to be paying attention, and more importantly, again, I've made this statement repeatedly. I'll say it again. I'm going to vote for Obama. There are plenty of reasons not to. There's a lot of really good reasons to vote for him. I'll give you two. The Ryan-Romney budget. Yeah, because if that budget by Paul Ryan, which is again it will be an absolute disaster. It will make that gulf between the rich and poor so much bigger, and make the number of poor and marginalized in this country such a huge group of people. That budget itself is frightening, and you don't want that in the White House. And the other thing is, you don't want President Obama will be fair and balanced, again, unlike Fox, but for real, fair and balanced in his selection of Supreme Court justices. And there are other ways in which he will be a better president than Romney. But we have to, at some point after the election, have a serious conversation of how we move this country forward. I mean, these policies, these decisions that are made and then abused by national banks with very little accountability. Very little that happens to hold their feet to the fire. I mean, that's just wrong. Okay, so what else do I want to tell you about corporate accountability? Hy-Vee. Now, those of you who know my past, I've done a lot of work in the past on land use, on urban sprawl, and trying to protect farmland, on responsible development. I don't think I'd ever have a conflict with a Hy-Vee before, but here we have, Central Iowa's largest supermarket is being sued by some of its neighbors out in, I believe it's Clive. It's 86th and Douglas. Michael and Susan House, they have a 4-bedroom home just northwest of the Hy-Vee at 86th and Douglas. They sued the supermarket chain this week for allegedly ruining the value of their home and depreciating their quality of life. Court documents say that the largest supermarket, quote, constitutes a permanent visual, light, and noise nuisance to the house's home that is, quote, injurious to the comfortable use and enjoyment of the property and is destructive and dangerous to the property and the building health. I want to see where this goes. I think this is fascinating. I'm surprised. I'm almost surprised you haven't seen something similar with the big dolls on Ingersoll. I'm surprised you haven't seen something similar with a Walmart store. Any of these huge stores. I mean, you've got a dolls on Beaver Ave. Beaver and Franklin. And it's a modest size. It seems to fit into the neighborhood. And then you've got the corporation deciding to build this massive, 2-block complex on Ingersoll and 35th. And you have, of course, Hy-Vee, as an example, also building huge stores that are always lit, where there's lots of noise going on, even after hours. I understand this couple's problem. I don't know them. Maybe they're perpetual whiners. Maybe they're exaggerating. But having lived near Dolls before and spent plenty of time near big box stores and large chain developments, yeah, it's an issue. You don't have that kind of problem with small, small buildings, more diverse businesses. Yeah, okay, down on Court Avenue on a Friday, Saturday night, yeah, you've got a different kind of issue. And that one needs to be addressed as well, because people have a right to quiet. They have a right to, I believe, and this is a subject we haven't had a lot of conversation about in our country, but I believe people have a right to a dark night sky. I mean, maybe we're not going to get that in the city because people are so darn afraid of their own shadows, but at some point we have to have a conversation about the appropriate amount of ambient light. You drive by those car dealerships in Ankeny, and it's like you could read easily under those lights. You could easily dig a splinter out of your finger. It's so bright. Now, there's not a lot of people living around this, so maybe it's not a problem, but you've got that same kind of situation in a more urban situation where you've got residents nearby. That can become a problem. It's all a matter of balancing needs, but my sense is if you shoot for a small, more traditional neighborhood developments, you're not going to have those kinds of conflicts as prominently as we're seeing them. And again, I'm very interested in seeing how this suit goes. It could be a precedent setter. There we go, for other types of commercial development. Okay, the one other thing I want to mention, if I can find the article. Yes, another couple are suing a corporation. This is a couple of sisters who court papers again filed in this case indicate that the two girls, age 17 and age 16, this is Cynthia Monahan and Kristen Gogan, they actually dropped out of high school allegedly to apply for jobs to help their mother with bills. Now some people say, oh, cry me a river, they should have stayed in high school. Is it really that bad? Yeah, it is, okay? For those of you who like to listen to commercial radio, WHO, wow, and you hear all those right-wing crazies talking nonstop about, now that Mitt Romney's done beating up the 47%, don't worry, we're still being beaten up. It's on commercial radio. And I can see exactly how they'd respond to this kind of story. Oh, cry me a river, get back to school, finish your education. They don't know what it's like, in many cases, to try to deal with poverty, to try to deal with even being a middle-class American anymore. So yeah, I don't know the details, but on the surface, I can well believe that they dropped out of high school in order to apply for jobs to help their mother pay bills. I have no trouble believing that. So where do they go? Well, where do you go when you're unskilled, young, and just trying to make money as quickly as possible? Well, you go to McDonald's, right? It seems to be the starter job for a lot of people here in Iowa. And they, in a lawsuit filed in the Polk County District Court, it alleges that these two teenagers were repeatedly harassed beginning back in 2010 by their trainer at the East 14th McDonald's. That's at East 14th and Euclid. They, in that quote, instead of helping a sarcastic and demeaning supervisor, the supervisor who they told about the problem was sarcastic and demeaning in responding to their complaints. So I mean, to go on to see again, I never like to see somebody convicted in the press. So there may be other facts to this story that we don't know about, but I have no trouble believing that people who own their own business, the couple that owns Java Joe's, for example, or my friends who own Open Sesame, or Denise and Linda, Ritual Cafe, the Lemo family at Host, all these local businesses that owned by people who have something to lose if their integrity is challenged in public. They're going to make sure their employees are acting appropriately, that they're dealing not just with customers appropriately, but they're dealing with other employees appropriately. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's less likely to happen when you've got a business owned by somebody who is there not just to make money, but there because they love what they're doing. Again, McDonald's, big chain business. I know it's a franchise. And franchisees are often getting the hatchet when they're getting the short end of the stick when it comes to the arrangement with the franchisor, in this case McDonald's. But again, you look at the details. I'd love to learn more about this, but just on the surface, this gal, one of the gals says, I told the supervisor that he was making me and my sister, that the guy who was the trainer was making me and my sister very uncomfortable, that he was too old for us and he needed to stop and find someone closer to his own age. He proceeded to tell me that age is just a number. He was just all kinds of weird. And again, the problem is, you can get that, but when you go to your supervisor, you should expect a little bit better treatment than just to be brushed off. A corporation spokesman with McDonald's cited the company's policy of not discussing pending litigation. I love that excuse for actually telling us that you don't think this is appropriate, or telling us more about how you think your business should be managed. So I found this particularly bizarre. The offender, the trainer, sent 5 images of cartoon pornography to cell phones he believed belonged to the young women. One of them actually belonged to one of the young women's boyfriends. Oops. I wonder how that went down. The images included graphic depictions of sex acts involving, get it now, wait, Fred and Wilma Flintstone, Bart and Marge Simpson, Barney the dinosaur, and one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The messages were sent, appropriately perhaps, on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, this guy needs help, all right? And he's a trainer at McDonald's. I mean, he obviously needs help. I don't know what the supervisor is thinking. Maybe the supervisor doesn't want to be involved, is disengaged. Maybe there's some personal connection with this guy that, And again, maybe we'll learn more as the court proceedings move forward. I don't like to judge somebody in the press, but I mean, that's pretty. That is beyond weird. So anyway, it'll be very interesting to see where that goes. I don't know whether we can get that those young sisters on the show, but I may try. They may have to avoid a talk show like this while their case is being litigated. Anyway, all sorts of bad corporations out there today. Bad, naughty corporations. I want to thank Gateway Market, a very, very good, healthy corporation that sells great food here right in the heart of downtown Des Moines. Gateway is owned by local folks. They keep their money here in the community. They don't ship it to some corporate headquarters out of state. And they've got a fantastic selection of food, a lot of it from local farms, local businesses. Again, I'm still drooling over the maple ice cream from Picket Fence Creamery. And even if you don't need anything in Gateway today, you should drive by because they have a fantastic pumpkin and gourd display out front. It warms the heart and might make you feel a little bit better on this dreary day. So folks, check out Gateway Market for breakfast, lunch, supper, shopping, and or catering at 20th and Woodland in downtown Des Moines. And we will be back in a few minutes with Rosalind Stone to get a preview of the concert coming up this Friday here at Unity Church in Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey folks, it's Ed Fallon. I want to tell you about saving energy and saving money. Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions will give you a comprehensive energy audit that will cost you nothing. And Tim will identify the many ways in which you can reduce energy use while saving money. Now, I had Tim over for an audit last month, and I was amazed, I tell you, at how much energy was going through the roof, out the windows, the back door. You get it. So before the cold winds of winter really blow hard, give Tim a call at 802-2801. That's 802-2801.
Host is a locally owned restaurant in downtown Des Moines that focuses its food and philosophy on embracing simplicity. The majority of Host's food is from local farmers who practice sustainable and health-conscious agriculture. Much of what you'll find on your plate is a familiar comfort food, presented with a modern and tasty interpretation. Host is open for lunch Monday through Friday from 11 to 2, and also available for private dinner events and special themed dinners throughout the month. So, check out Host at 13th and Locust in Des Moines.
With warm weather finally here, it's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker-owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
There is hope. Visit groundwire.net and chat now with a live coach for answers.
Oh my God, Becky, did you see her bumper? I know she's had work done. Just last week, she had dimples and stuff all over, and now look.
Yeah, dimples and stuff. Yeah.
I'm Jamie Lasher from Minor Wreck Express. We're here to help with all the dents, dings, and drama of car ownership. Call 278-0101 or visit minorwreck.com for details. We'll see you in the fast lane.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Yes, you hear Baber's Neighbors bringing us back to our conversation here. Baber's a great local band. Totally different type of music this Friday. If you have not yet died and gone to heaven, and if you have, you probably aren't watching the show. You probably have better things to do. Golf up on the clouds. I don't know what they do up there. But Angels' voices will sound pretty much like what you're going to hear Friday at the Rosalind Stone concert at Unity Church. Now, full disclosure, I'm also playing. I'm honored actually to have been asked to perform I'm doing a solo piece, but also accompanying one of the pieces the group is doing, a Brahms piece. But I'm delighted to have 3 of the 6 singers in the studio with me today: Terry, Sarah, and Laura. And we can't get 3 people in front of one mic. I've never even tried that. That would be interesting, Maddie. Cram them all in front of one mic. No, it wouldn't work. Okay, but welcome to the show.
Thanks.
And tell us a bit about what's happening with the concert this Friday.
Well, we are having an informal concert at Unity Church, and basically we're doing a selection of pieces from ancient to modern. We kind of pride ourselves in keeping a very eclectic blend. So we have things that are 600 years old, and we have things that are less than a year old, and we arrange a lot of our own things as well. So.
And Terry, what's your niche in this chorus?
Oh goodness, I think we all kind of move around to fit what's best. Most of the stuff right now, I'm singing soprano, and that's where I am, up on top.
Yeah, and Laura, you're.
I've been with the group since February, and I've been holding the alto part pretty strong there. Right. And once in a while, you hear me slide in some really low notes in the basement once in a while if they come out. Okay. But otherwise, it's just.
And Unity Church is just south of Grand Avenue on 31st Street, right. And tickets is a concert.
The tickets, we're actually doing a free will donation concert, and so just come, and if there's standing room only, well, there will probably be seats for everyone. So. Okay.
Yeah, and if you like the music, make a nice donation. And if you don't want me to bring my accordion and play that, make an even nicer donation, okay? All right. So let's hear a selection from and again, I've only heard the pieces that I'm involved with. So let's, what are you going to play for us or sing for us?
Well, we are mostly a cappella group, although Ed's going to be playing piano, and we have a lutenist coming, and a boron player, which is the Irish drum. So, but most of our numbers are a cappella, and we're going to do one of our a cappella pieces called Mamu's Hallelujah. Okay.
Every
take from me these troubles, bring me sweet release, where the river will never run dry. Hallelujah. I'm gonna let myself be lifted. I'm gonna let myself be lifted. I'm gonna let myself be lifted by and by. I will lay my troubles down by the water, where the river will never run dry. There is a river in this heart of hearts, with a knowingness of my highest good. I am willing, I will do my part, where the river will never run dry. Hallelujah. I'm gonna let myself be lifted. I'm gonna let myself be lifted. I'm gonna let myself be lifted by and by. I will lay my troubles down by the water, where the river will never run dry, where the river will never run dry. This river will never run dry.
Bravo, very nice. Folks, these are three of the 6 singers with Rosalind Stone. Very, very nice. Thank you. And an appropriate tune for a drought year, too. Excellent selection. Hopefully we won't have another drought year next year. Certainly we're getting a change of pace in the weather these days. So thank you so much for joining us. And folks, free will donation asked. There's no specific charge for the concert coming up this Friday at 7:30 at Unity Church, just south of Grand Avenue in Des Moines on 31st Street. So thanks again. And again, I will be doing my bit part. And please do not bring tomatoes. Do not throw them at me until I get outside of the building, all right? Or any other vegetables for that matter. All right, thanks again. And folks, when we come back, we're going to have Connie Ryan Terrell join us. She's with the Iowa Interfaith Alliance, and we're going to talk about the judicial retention vote and also about the appropriate use of church space when it comes to politics. Did a pastor in eastern Iowa overstep his bounds recently?
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of WebcastOneLive.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
Hi, folks. It's Ed Fallon here. Proof Restaurant at 13th and Locust. You've probably been there for their award-winning, nationally recognized lunch specials. Well, now Proof is open Thursdays and Fridays for supper. And here's where the chefs really get creative. Let me tell you, they're like artists, okay? I've been there, and it is one of the best meals I have had in Des Moines. I've heard that from other people. You got to check it out. Proof for supper, Thursdays and Fridays, and also the second Saturday of the month. Do not assume you can get in. Make reservations. Contact Proof Restaurant online at proofrestaurant.com or 244-0655. That's 244-0655. Hi, folks. Ed Fallon here. When it is time to entertain, think of Gateway Market. Let them handle the details. Gateway offers a wide variety of stress-free options like cut-to-order cheese and charcuterie. There's a delicious olive bar and a wide variety of chef-prepared dips and spreads. Or let the catering team take care of the entire event, right down to the wine and beer pairings. The expert floral designers can even customize the perfect centerpieces. So stop by or visit Gateway Market for more information. Gateway is at Woodland and ML King in downtown Des Moines. Good food, great entertaining.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
I love driving to Newton to see the races.
Me too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hi, folks. Welcome back. That's Pumptown. And this segment of our program sponsored by Reynolds Energy Solutions and Proof Restaurant. Connie Ryan Terrell is in the studio with me, and we're going to go back. We took a minute there to celebrate Des Moines' status as the cultural and culinary crossroads of the continent with the wonderful music of Rosalind Stone, again, which you can hear this Friday live, 7:30 at Unity Church. We're going to go back to some serious political conversation here. Two things I want to cover with Connie. Connie's with the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, and a couple issues of importance to that organization that are very important to me and I think very important to Iowa. The question of the appropriate use of the pulpit in political discourse. The other thing I want to talk about second to that is the upcoming judicial retention election. And there was an interesting piece in today's paper by Des Moines City Councilman Hallie Grease, who I invited to come on this program today. I have not heard back from him, but we'll talk about that too. But first, Connie, there was a bit of a dust-up recently with a pastor in Davenport deciding to circulate a publication in his church that was clearly inconsistent with what federal law allows for tax-exempt organizations. A parishioner pointed that out. He chastised the parishioner, in fact, threatened to slap her. Maybe he did slap her, I don't know. But the whole thing is, it just makes him look really, really bad. And it's begun a little bit of a dialogue about what churches, what type of special privileges should churches be given, and what should they be, allowed to do, and what not allowed to do. So your organization, where do you stand on this? And I know you've written about it as well. So let's start with your comments about it in the paper and what you think should be happening next.
Sure. Well, first, Ed, thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it and appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, there was a minister. It was actually Burlington, but over on the same side of the state. Yep. And there's a couple pastors at that church. It's kind of a startup church. And my understanding is that one Sunday they passed out these pamphlets, and the pamphlets were against one of the justices up for retention.
And probably because he voted for the marriage equality
certainly,
decision, right?
Because he was part of the court that ruled on Barnum. And so then there was kind of an uproar about that. Within the church, there was a parishioner, as you said, who was upset about it, and there was some of that internal conversation. I had a conversation with one of the pastors that particular week. This is first week of October. And then there was a very angry, vitriolic sermon that following service, that following Sunday. The parishioner was not at that service, but he did put that sermon up online, so anybody could hear that. I listened to the entire 70-minute sermon.
And that's the sermon, really, 70 minutes. Wow, he could give Louis Farrakhan a run for his money.
Absolutely.
But anyway, was that the point at which he also made reference to slapping this person?
Yes, not only slapping her, but also told her husband, they weren't there, but if they had been there, that the husband should take control of his wife and tell her to sit down and shut up. So not a whole lot of respect for women in general.
Yeah.
So there's that issue of it, but we really wanted to kind of put that piece of it aside and really talk about the appropriate role of the church, of any house of worship, whether or not they can pass out or preach on political issues as opposed to telling people how to vote. It's two very different things. And when I wrote the piece for the Des Moines Register and then a subsequent piece for the Cedar Rapids Gazette, very clearly want to distinguish between that clergy, houses of worship, can certainly talk from their faith perspective on political issues and where they come from and where they stand on political issues. What they can't do is cross that line and tell people how to vote when they enter the voting booth.
And he was doing that very blatantly.
Very blatantly, and was proud of the fact that he was doing that.
Okay, so I mean, is he in danger of his church losing its tax-exempt status because of that?
Well, it should be in danger. Part of the problem is that, as we know, the IRS is not really following through on a lot of complaints. And there was a formal complaint made by a citizen.
Not the parishioner that
not
was
the parishioner,
but
another person in that community. And it's very easy to do. You can go online in the IRS website, and there's a form you fill out. And if you have information or evidence, so to speak, you can do that. Part of the problem is that the IRS is very understaffed, as are a lot of our governmental agencies.
You know, saying we need more tax collectors is probably going to be a hard sell politically.
Not necessarily tax collectors per se, but folks who enforce the law, and that's the piece of it. And so it's difficult for them to get enough evidence and to do the work that's needed. That is my understanding as a layperson in the community. But regardless, just because you're not going to be prosecuted per se, should you not go ahead and follow the law. And when churches blatantly go against the law, and there's even a movement among conservative congregations, conservative Christian congregations, to violate the law intentionally, and they want a case to be brought by the IRS. They want to go to court because they want to challenge the law and the rules that the IRS has established. And that there's every 2 years they have something called Pulpit Freedom Sunday.
Right.
And the goal really is to challenge the law and to get the IRS to respond.
So and you could argue, and you could argue that makes sense. That why should any organization be unable to speak freely about any topic that it believes is important? And my sense is, okay, maybe that would be a good idea, but on the flip side, maybe that's a reason to do away with this tax-exempt status, which takes a lot of property off the tax rolls and puts the rest of the burden on homeowners and small businesses.
Certainly, and there's a lot of people who feel that way, and I received a lot of comments from folks that believe that organizations, and particularly houses of worship, for some reason, should have to pay taxes on their building, for instance, and that there should not be this set aside. I would argue that we've decided as a society that that nonprofit organizations, including houses of worship, do a lot of good in our world. And we know that houses of worship and nonprofit organizations, mine included, we don't have a budget that a corporation would have. You know, we're reliant upon people giving donations. And so if you want organizations that do that good in the world, isn't it to our benefit to give them some tax relief in some way?
Well,
so that's kind of the argument on the other side of it.
And in this context, good is a relative term. I mean,
certainly.
Yeah,
a pastor slapping a parishioner is not necessarily on the good side of things,
or
right?
preaching hatred from the pulpit.
Yes,
for 70
correct.
minutes apparently.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
Or in organizations that some would argue that PETA is a group not doing good things in the world.
Right.
Others would argue that the anti-abortion crowd or the anti-pro-choice crowd are not doing good things in the world. I mean, there's lots of, and depending on how you feel about the NRA, you're going to get people arguing on both sides. So,
well, and I heard recently that the NFL is actually a nonprofit organization. Who knew? And
Really?
they certainly are making a lot of money. So, I think there are abuses of the law, and certainly maybe some of the law could be tightened. But the law is what it is right now, and so for a pastor to stand up and defy the law intentionally, I think is quite suspect. The other side of the story really is, besides the law, and one of the points in the guest essay that I wrote for the Register was, it also is not in the best interest of that community of faith to have their pastor go and tell their parishioners how to vote. There are very few congregations in our world, certainly in the state, that are fully Republican, fully Democrat, fully independent. Most congregations are what we would call purple congregations. And so to have a pastor or a rabbi or an imam stand up and tell people how to vote is very divisive within that congregation and is really quite harmful to the congregation.
and of course, parishioners can always just pack up their bags and go somewhere else.
Absolutely, they can, but wouldn't they rather hear about the issues from that faith leader's perspective, but stop at that line where you're telling them how to vote?
Yeah.
So that's the other piece of the story that was part of the op-ed.
And the other piece of this conversation, which is tied in with the question of the appropriate role of the pulpit, is the judicial retention vote coming up, and it was on that issue that this pastor was, I think, telling people how to vote.
Right.
What's your take? Again, I don't know how many. I can't remember how many churches are involved with the Interfaith Alliance. It's quite a few.
Well, we're an individual member-based
Right.
organization, supporter-based, so it's not churches per se or congregations per se that are supporters or members of the organization. But we certainly have folks who are part of houses of worship, communities of faith across the entire state. So, and a broad array of faith traditions.
And if memory serves, the Interfaith Alliance came into being after the very hateful school board campaign of, I think it was 1996, when forces from around the country, anti-gay forces from across the country, descended on Iowa to take out Jonathan Wilson, who'd been an honorable member of the Des Moines School Board for 12 years,
right.
Came out as a gay man, and suddenly the hate campaign started. I mean, I remember visiting with Jonathan during the election. He had to have a bulletproof vest on. He was so legitimately concerned about his life.
Right.
And out of that, the Interfaith Alliance grew. So we're seeing progress on the issue that helped give birth to the movement.
Right.
But here it is again on the ballot.
Right.
In a different way.
In a different way, and it certainly rears its ugly head in a variety of different ways. Yeah, it was actually 95, and Jonathan had been on the school board for 12 years. And when it became known publicly, certainly his friends and family knew that he was gay, is gay. And but it became a public issue and became the issue that they wanted to oust him from his seat, and they were successful. And the group of folks who started Interfaith Alliance did so because there was not a voice, an organized voice to counter the message that was coming from those out-of-state groups. And we know that our school board elections are relatively short in Iowa. They're 6 weeks essentially. And there was not time to organize that voice to counter it. And so he was defeated. And but after the fact, there was a group of folks who came together and said, we need to have a voice, a progressive voice of faith, coming from a faith perspective, that can speak on these issues and can really balance what is coming from the religious right and conservative churches. Because it's important to have balance in the public square on these issues. No one was ever saying that they didn't have a right to have their opinion or to speak about it, but there needed to be balance, and that's where Interfaith Alliance of Iowa came in.
And 17 years later, you're still relevant and still working on this issue.
Yeah, we joke that we'd love to be able to work our way out of a job or out of an organization, but certainly this year, in the last couple of years, we have certainly been relevant and been out there. We were part of the creation of Justice Not Politics, which is the primary organization that is standing to protect the courts, and we're an important voice on that because we do come from a faith perspective.
So there have been some very interesting opinions expressed on this issue that I never saw coming. I mean, and Christopher Rance, for example, the former Speaker of the House, and I voted against the Defense of Marriage Act in '96 and '98, and I was well aware, as any legislator who was paying attention was aware of the conversations going on behind the scenes, that the bill was not going to be constitutional. So, it wasn't hard to see eventually a lawsuit coming and the bill and the law being struck down. And Rance knew that. And his argument is, legislators tried to put this in the Constitution because they knew it was not constitutional as currently written. They didn't succeed at that. So, don't shoot the messenger. And now we have Hallie Grease in today's paper, a Des Moines City Councilman, arguing a very different angle on the other side of the issue. I mean, Rance is coming out in favor of retaining Wiggins, which I thought is fantastic. Grease is arguing against Wiggins' retention, but on the grounds not that he. Grease is not making any anti-gay argument here, although I suspect he is anti-gay. I suspect he is not for marriage equality. He's making an argument that Wiggins is a lousy judge because his fellow lawyers gave him a low rating of approval. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say that more than a third of the lawyers gave him approval. And so, yes, there were some that did not, that gave him a lower rate. But it
more
was
than 2/3, right?
Yeah, right. It was 67%, I think, that did approve of his actions and the way that he holds court and his demeanor and all of those pieces. There's many elements to that survey that is done by the
63.3%.
Okay.
And if a candidate gets 63.3% in an election, if Obama were to win Iowa by 63%, it's an absolute landslide.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a mandate.
Right.
So I mean, I don't. It seems like he's trying to find a fringe argument because he wants to avoid the main reason why most people are going to be voting against Wiggins, and that's because they don't like gay people.
Right. Well, and there's always an element, when we have judicial retention elections, there's always an element of people who vote no regardless. So, and we know that walking into it. We know there are people who are anti-government. We know there are people who believe in term limits. We know there are people who are just cranky that day, whatever the reason, And so we know that, and that's somewhere between 20-25%. And we knew that in 2010. And so it's not any different. So when you have folks like this gentleman speaking for other various reasons, okay, fine. It's his right, absolutely, to vote however he wants on a judicial retention piece. We know that. But what we hope people will look at is the overarching goal of the judiciary, the good work that they do, that when you are voting on retention, it really is, have they overall done a good job, not whether or not you agree with any particular decision, whether it's the Varnum case or whether it's any other case, but have they upheld the law? Have they upheld the Constitution in particular? Is there anything that is malfeasance or mental health issues or whatever it is that doesn't allow them to do their job well? Those are the reasons that you should look at, because in the end, if we ever, as individuals, need to use the courts, we certainly want to make sure that our courts are fair and impartial. And when we start taking politics, whatever your politics is, and insert that in, it becomes dangerous for all of us.
And many states have a system whereby judges must campaign.
Absolutely.
They must take contributions from individuals or entities that have an interest in the outcome of a trial. That's a dangerous thing.
It is a very dangerous thing. You look at Illinois, you look at several states over on the East Coast, you look at Alabama and Louisiana. They all have systems where judges have to spend sometimes millions of dollars on their reelection.
And where do they get their money from?
And where do they get their money from? They get it from corporations. So if I am the little person who walks into the court and I'm up against a corporation that is given lots of money, who's going to win? Not me.
One quick question before we wrap up the show, Connie. I know that the Interfaith Alliance does not take positions on votes, on elections, but what's your prediction? Will Wiggins be retained or thrown out?
You know, I have every confidence in the voters of Iowa and that they are going to understand that the courts need to be protected.
So they understand more now than they did 2 years ago.
Absolutely. We saw the backlash and we saw the issues that came out of 2010 and when the judges were ousted at that point. And I think it really woke people up because I think a lot of folks just didn't think it was going to happen.
Well, there's certainly an actual campaign this time on the pro-judicial retention side, so that's encouraging.
Right.
Thanks for joining us, Connie. Connie Ryan Terrell, folks, with the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. And if folks want to get in touch with you for more information or to rant and rave against you, what do they do?
Sure, they can call me. In Des Moines, it's 515-279-8715. That's the office number. Or they can look on our website, and it's interfaithallianceiowa.org.
interfaithallianceiowa.org. Thanks so much for joining us. Folks, tomorrow, among other topics, Alan Koslow is going to join me to talk about relief work in Haiti. I also want to thank all of our business sponsors as well as our nonprofit sponsors. I want to thank in particular Reynolds Energy Solutions and recommend that you should go and get an audit. They are free. Tim Reynolds will come and tell you where you are leaking heat. This is a good day to start working on that, isn't it? So, again, costing you nothing but finding ways in which you can reduce your carbon footprint and save a bunch of money. You can reach Tim at 802-2801. That's 802-2801. I also want to thank Proof Restaurant, and I got down to Proof for dinner last night. Had a wonderful conversation with Zach Mannheimer, one of the owners. And I said, Zach, what am I eating tonight? He said, quail. All right, so I had the quail. I never had quail before. I was amazed at how much meat you can get on the wing of a quail. And again, if I were to cook a quail, I would probably butcher the poor little bird. But I tell you, the chefs at Proof, Hal and Sean, they do a fantastic job with everything. I've not had anything there that wasn't spectacular. So, folks, I highly recommend Proof. And you might not get in Friday and Saturday, so you should be thinking about going there Wednesday and Thursday. They're trying to expand to the entire week, help them out. Again, a great meal and a great local business owned by people who care about our community and support alternatives to right-wing radio. I want to thank Webcast One Live for providing this wonderful studio. And no, that's not the real Capitol behind me. That's a picture, okay? Fooled you again. I want to thank Webcast One Live and Maddie Arrington, my lovely producer. We'll be back Friday at noon, but stay tuned for Bradshaw coming up with you here in just a few minutes.
I'm just saying. 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 Ching ching. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Feeling alone? God knows and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.